Cold Roads, a story of survival and trust in the American West. The bullet hit the rock 3 inches from Jack's head, sending chips of granite flying into his face. He dove behind the boulder, his horse screaming somewhere in the canyon below. Blood ran from a cut above his eye, but he couldn't think about that now. Someone was trying to kill him, and out here in the Colorado mountains, there was nowhere to run. He pressed his back against the cold stone and listened. The wind howled through the pines, making it impossible to hear footsteps. His hand went to his revolver, checking the cylinder. 4 bullets left. He'd used 2 on the wolf pack yesterday, and now he wished he'd saved them. Another shot rang out, this one closer. The shooter was moving, circling around to get a better angle. Jack knew these mountains well enough to know he was tracked. Behind him was a sheer drop into the valley. To his left and right were open spaces with no cover. The only way out was forward, straight toward whoever wanted him dead. He took a deep breath and ran. 3 more shots followed him as he zigzagged between the trees. His boots slipped on loose rocks, but he kept moving. A pine branch whipped across his face, drawing more blood. He could hear someone crashing through the brush behind him, gaining ground. The trail ahead split into 2 paths. Jack chose the left without thinking, sprinting down a narrow gap between 2 cliff faces. His lungs burned in the thin mountain air. The path twisted sharply, and suddenly he was sliding down a steep slope, unable to stop himself. He hit the bottom hard. The wind knocked from his chest. When he looked up, a woman stood over him with a rifle pointed at his face. "Don't move," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. She was young, maybe 25, with dirt on her face and fear in her eyes. Jack raised his hands slowly. "I'm not the one shooting at people." "Neither am I," she said, "but someone's been hunting me for 3 days, and you just led them right to me." Before Jack could respond, another shot echoed through the canyon. The woman dropped beside him, her rifle swinging toward the ridge above them. Jack saw movement in the trees, a flash of dark clothing. "How many bullets you got?" he asked. "Enough," she said. "Then we better make them count, because whoever that is, they're not going to stop until we're both dead." The woman looked at him, weighing her options. Jack could see the calculation in her eyes. Trust a stranger or face the shooter alone. Finally, she nodded. "My name's Kate," she said, "and if we're going to survive this, you better know how to shoot." Jack pulled his revolver and checked it again. 4 bullets against an unknown enemy in hostile territory. The odds weren't good, but they were all he had. The shooter fired again, and the bullet struck a tree trunk beside Kate's shoulder. Splinters exploded into the air. Jack returned fire, aiming at the muzzle flash on the ridge. His bullet went wide, but it bought them a few seconds. "There's a cave system half a mile west," Kate said, "already moving. We can lose them in there." Jack followed her along the canyon floor, keeping low. His injured horse was gone, probably run off by the gunfire. Everything he owned was in those saddlebags, including his money and supplies. Now he had nothing but the clothes on his back and 4 bullets. They ran through a creek bed, the icy water soaking their boots. Jack's feet went numb almost immediately, but he pushed forward. Behind them, he could hear branches breaking. The shooter was persistent, he'd give him that. Kate moved like she knew every rock and tree in these mountains. She led him through a narrow passage where the canyon walls pressed in so close he had to turn sideways. Then they were climbing, scrambling up a steep incline covered in loose shale. Jack's hands bled from gripping the sharp rocks. His lungs screamed for air. The altitude was brutal, and he wasn't used to it anymore. He'd spent the last 2 years down in the flatlands, working ranches in Kansas and Missouri. Coming back to Colorado was supposed to be a fresh start, not a death sentence. They reached the top of the rise, and Kate pulled him down behind a fallen log. Below them, a figure emerged from the canyon. Jack couldn't make out the face, but he could see the rifle, the way the man moved with purpose and skill. This wasn't some random drifter looking for easy money. This was someone who knew how to hunt. "You recognize him?" Jack whispered. Kate shook her head. "Never seen him before 3 days ago." "But he's not alone. There's at least 2 more. Maybe 3. Jack's stomach dropped. Multiple shooters changed everything. Even if they made it to the caves, they could be trapped inside with no way out. "Why are they after you?" he asked. Kate hesitated, her eyes scanning the forest. "I saw something I shouldn't have. A week ago, I was tracking deer near Copper Ridge when I stumbled onto a camp. 4 men, military gear, crates full of rifles and ammunition. They were planning something big, talking about hitting a train carrying federal payroll." "And they saw you?" "One of them did. I ran, but they've been tracking me ever since. I can't go to the sheriff because I don't know who's involved. For all I know, half the town is in on it." Jack understood her problem. The territory was full of corrupt lawmen and desperate men willing to do anything for money. Trust was a luxury nobody could afford. The shooter below them whistled, a sharp sound that cut through the wind. Another whistle answered from somewhere to the north. Kate was right. There were more of them. The caves, Jack said. How far? 20 minutes if we move fast. But once we're inside, we need to know the way through. It's a maze in there. People have died getting lost in those tunnels. You know the way? I grew up here. My father was a miner. He taught me every passage before he died. Jack made his decision. Then we go. Staying here gets us killed for sure. They moved quickly, using the trees for cover. Jack kept his revolver ready, counting his remaining bullets like precious gold. 3 now, after the shot at the ridge. He needed to make everyone count. The forest opened into a clearing, and Kate stopped so suddenly that Jack nearly ran into her. In the middle of the clearing stood a cabin, half collapsed and abandoned. Smoke rose from behind it, thin and gray against the darkening sky. That wasn't there yesterday, Kate whispered. Jack's instincts screamed danger. The smoke meant people, and people out here meant trouble, but they had to cross the clearing to reach the caves. Going around would take too long, and the shooters were closing in. We run straight through, he said. Don't stop for anything. Kate nodded, gripping her rifle tighter. They burst from the trees at a full sprint, boots pounding against the frozen ground. Jack's heart hammered in his chest. 50 yards to the other side. 40. 30. The cabin door flew open. A man stepped out, rifle already raised. He wasn't one of the shooters from the canyon. This was someone new, someone worse. Jack recognized the scar across his face, the cold eyes that had haunted his nightmares for 3 years. Hello, Jack, the man said. Been a long time. Jack's blood turned to ice. Danny Frost. The man who'd killed his brother and burned down his family ranch. The man Jack had sworn to hunt down and make pay. And now here he was, standing between Jack and survival, with a rifle pointed at his chest. Kate looked at Jack, confusion and fear mixing in her expression. She didn't understand the history, the violence that stretched back years. All she knew was that they were trapped between Frost ahead and the hunters behind. Jack raised his revolver, his hand steady despite the rage burning through him. 3 bullets, 1 for Frost, 2 for whoever came through the trees. It wasn't enough, but it would have to be. You should have stayed dead, Danny, Jack said. Frost smiled cold and cruel. Funny, I was thinking the same about you. The first shot came from behind them, not from Frost. Kate grabbed Jack's arm and yanked him sideways as the bullet tore through the space where his head had been. They hit the ground hard, rolling toward the cabin's collapsed wall. Frost fired, but he was aiming at the trees, covering them. Jack's mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Why would Frost protect them? The man had murdered his brother in cold blood, taken everything from him. Nothing about this made sense. Inside, Frost shouted. Move now. Kate didn't hesitate. She scrambled through a gap in the cabin wall, and Jack followed, his revolver still trained on Frost. 2 more shots rang out, splintering wood around them. The hunters had reached the clearing. Inside the cabin, the air smelled of rot and old smoke. Half the roof was gone, letting in the gray afternoon light. Frost backed through the door, still firing at the tree line. When he turned to face them, Jack had his gun pointed right at his chest. Give me one reason, Jack said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Because those men out there will kill all 3 of us if we don't work together, Frost said. He wasn't smiling anymore. His face was hard, covered in fresh cuts and bruises. You want revenge? But wait until we're not about to die. Kate moved between them, her rifle ready. Who are you? Someone who made mistakes, Frost said. And someone who knows those men are here for me, not you. They followed me from Denver, and you 2 just got caught in the middle. Jack's finger tightened on the trigger. Every instinct told him to shoot, to end this now. But another volley of gunfire hammered the cabin walls, and he knew Frost was right. Revenge wouldn't matter if he was dead. After this is over, Jack said, lowering his gun slightly, you and me settle things. Frost nodded once. Fair enough. I count 4 of them. They're spreading out, trying to surround us. The caves, Jack said. Can we reach them from here? Not without crossing open ground. They'd cut us down before we got halfway. Frost checked his rifle, counting ammunition. I've got 8 rounds left. What about you 2? 6, Kate said. 3, Jack admitted. 17 bullets against 4 armed men. The math wasn't good, but it was better than nothing. Frost moved to the back of the cabin where a window frame hung empty. He studied the terrain, then pointed to a rocky outcrop about 30 yards away. There, he said. We make it to those rocks, we can pin them down long enough to reach the caves. But someone needs to draw their fire first. I'll do it, Jack said immediately. No, Kate cut in. They're hunting you, she said to Frost. They'll focus on you. Jack and I can use that. Frost's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. On my signal, then. I go through the door. You two go through the back window. Meet at the rocks. Jack grabbed Kate's arm. You don't have to do this. These aren't your enemies. Kate looked at him with fierce determination. They are now. Besides, I need you alive to help me stop that train robbery. Those men I saw at Copper Ridge are planning something for tomorrow night. If we don't get to the Marshal in Silver Creek, a lot of people are going to die. The weight of her words settled over Jack. This was bigger than his vendetta against Frost, bigger than survival. People were depending on them, even if they didn't know it yet. All right, he said. We do this together. Frost counted down from 3. On 1, he kicked open the door and ran into the clearing, firing as he moved. The response was immediate. Rifles cracked from 3 different positions, all focused on Frost. Jack and Kate went through the window, running low and fast. Jack's boots slipped on ice-covered ground, but he kept moving. Kate was ahead of him, her rifle swinging toward the tree line. She fired twice, forcing one of the shooters to duck behind cover. They reached the rocks as Frost dove behind a fallen tree. One of his shots had found its mark. A body lay motionless near the clearing's edge. That left 3 hunters, but they were regrouping, changing tactics. They're going to rush us, Kate said, breathing hard. They know we're low on ammunition. Jack could see movement in the trees, the hunters coordinating their assault. In less than a minute, they'd come at them from multiple angles, and there wouldn't be enough bullets to stop them all. Then Jack saw it. The old mine shaft, partially hidden behind the rocks. It wasn't the cave system Kate had mentioned, but it might lead there. Or it might lead nowhere. Either way, it was their only chance. There, he said, pointing. The shaft. Kate's eyes widened. That's the old Sterling mine. It collapsed 20 years ago. Could be flooded, could be blocked. Could be our way out, Jack countered. Frost had seen it too. He fired 3 quick shots, then sprinted toward them. Bullets chased him, kicking up dirt at his heels. He slid behind the rocks, his shoulder bleeding from a graze. I'm hit, he said through gritted teeth. Not bad, but I'm slowing down. The hunters were coming. Jack could hear their boots crunching through the underbrush, spreading out to flank them. No more time to debate, no more time to think. The mine, Jack said. Now. They moved as one, Kate leading the way into the darkness of the shaft. Jack went next, turning to fire his last 3 bullets at the advancing hunters. He heard a scream, saw one man fall. Then Frost was beside him, pulling him into the mine as bullets sparked off the rocks around them. The darkness swallowed them whole, and behind them the hunters kept coming. Jack's hands scraped against wet stone as they stumbled deeper into the mine. Water dripped from somewhere above, and the air tasted of rust and decay. Kate fumbled with something in her pocket. Then a match flared to life, casting dancing shadows on the tunnel walls. This way, she said, moving forward. There should be a junction about 50 yards ahead. Behind them, voices echoed in the shaft entrance. The hunters were coming in, but slowly, cautiously. They knew the danger of abandoned mines as well as anyone. One wrong step could mean a fall into an unseen pit or a tunnel collapse. Frost pressed his hand against his wounded shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. How far to the cave system? If the passages aren't blocked, maybe half a mile. But I haven't been down here since I was a kid. Things could have changed. The match burned down to Kate's fingers, and she lit another. They moved through the tunnel, their footsteps splashing in shallow puddles. The walls pressed in close, supported by rotting timber beams that groaned under the mountain's weight. Jack's revolver was empty now, just dead weight in his hand. He'd fired his last bullet at the rocks, maybe hitting one of the hunters, maybe not. All he had left was his knife and his fists. Not much against rifles, but enough to make someone pay if it came to that. The tunnel split into 3 directions. Kate studied each passage, her face tight with concentration. The match was burning low, and they only had a few left. Middle path, she said finally. The others lead to dead ends or flooded sections. They took the middle tunnel, and the ground began to slope downward. Jack's boots slipped on the wet stone, and he had to catch himself against the wall. The air grew colder, and he could hear water flowing somewhere below them. Frost stumbled, nearly falling. Jack caught him instinctively, years of hatred warring with survival instinct. Frost looked at him in the flickering matchlight, and something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not friendship, but understanding. They were all dead if they didn't help each other. "Keep moving," Jack said. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, and Kate's match revealed timber supports that were newer than the rest, maybe only 10 or 15 years old. Someone had been working this section recently. On the far side of the chamber, 3 more passages led deeper into the mountain. Then the match went out. Darkness crashed over them like a physical thing. Jack couldn't see his hand in front of his face. He could hear Kate fumbling for another match, hear Frost's labored breathing, hear water dripping and stone settling. And, somewhere behind them, growing closer, the sound of boots on rock. The hunters had followed them in. "No more matches," Kate whispered. "That was the last one." Jack's heart sank. Without light, they were blind. They could wander these tunnels forever, or fall into a shaft, or walk right into the hunters' guns. The darkness was absolute, suffocating. "Feel along the walls," Frost said quietly. "Look for air current. Fresh air means a way out." They moved slowly, hands on the damp stone. Jack went left, feeling his way along the wall. His fingers found gaps in the rock, traced old tool marks, touched something that moved. He jerked back instinctively, then realized it was just a piece of rope, hung there decades ago and forgotten. Behind them, a light appeared, not a match, but a lantern. The hunters had brought proper equipment. The light grew brighter, casting long shadows across the chamber floor. Jack could see Kate and Frost now, pressed against the far wall. They had seconds before the hunters reached them. Kate grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the rightmost tunnel. They ran blind, hands stretched out in front of them, feet stumbling over loose rocks. The tunnel twisted and turned, and Jack lost all sense of direction. He could hear the hunters shouting behind them, their lantern light bouncing off the walls. Frost cried out and fell. Jack and Kate stopped, reaching back for him. He'd tripped over something, maybe a rail track from the old mining operation. When they pulled him up, he was breathing hard, clutching his shoulder. "Can't keep running," he gasped. "Shoulder's worse than I thought." Jack made a decision. "Kate, find the way out. I'll slow them down." "With what?" Kate challenged. "You're out of bullets. I'll figure something out." Kate hesitated, then pressed something into his hand. Her knife, sharp and heavy. Don't die, Jack. I need you to help stop that robbery." She helped Frost to his feet, and they disappeared into the darkness ahead. Jack could hear them moving away, then silence. He turned to face the approaching light, the knife gripped tight in his hand. The hunters came around the corner, 3 of them now. One still outside, or dead. Jack didn't know which. The man in front held the lantern high, a rifle in his other hand. The other 2 flanked him, weapons ready. "End of the line," the lead hunter said. He was older than the others, with gray in his beard and scars on his face. A professional killer, not some hired thug. "Where's Frost?" "Gone," Jack said. "Just me now." The hunter smiled without humor. "Then you'll do. We're getting paid either way. Dead men don't tell tales, and you've seen too much." Jack backed up slowly, feeling the tunnel wall behind him. His hand touched timber, felt how old and weak it was. 20 years of water and time had rotted the supports. An idea formed, desperate and dangerous. "You know what Frost did?" Jack asked, stalling for time. "Why you're after him, don't matter. We're getting paid to end him, and anyone with him. Now put down the knife, and this'll be quick." Jack's fingers found a gap in the timber where the wood had cracked. He drove the knife in deep and pulled hard. The beam splintered with a crack like thunder. The tunnel ceiling groaned. Dust and small rocks began to fall. The hunters' eyes went wide as they understood what was happening. They turned to run, but it was too late. The mountain came down. Jack threw himself backward as tons of rock and timber crashed where he'd been standing. The roar was deafening, drowning out everything else. Dust filled the air, choking him. He scrambled away on hands and knees, feeling the ground shake beneath him. Then silence, complete and absolute. Jack lay in the darkness, coughing, his ears ringing. Dead. Slowly he got to his feet. Behind him, the tunnel was sealed. The hunters were on the other side, trapped or dead. He didn't know which, and right now he didn't care. He had to find Kate and Frost, had to get out of these mines before the whole system collapsed. He moved forward in absolute darkness, one hand on the wall, the other stretched out in front. His boots splashed through water that was getting deeper. Soon it was up to his ankles, then his knees. The tunnel was flooding, water flowing in from somewhere. He called out, his voice echoing strangely in the darkness. No answer came back. Panic started to set in, but he pushed it down. Panic would kill him faster than the water or the darkness. The water reached his waist. Jack could feel the current now, pulling at him. The tunnel was flooding fast, probably from the cave-in. He had to find higher ground or he'd drown in the dark. Then he saw it. Not light exactly, but a lessening of the darkness ahead. He waded toward it, fighting the current. The water was freezing, numbing his legs. His teeth chattered uncontrollably. The glow grew stronger, and suddenly he was standing in a cavern filled with bioluminescent fungus. The walls glowed with a faint blue-green light, enough to see by. Kate and Frost were there, huddled on a rock ledge above the water. Kate's face lit up when she saw him. "You're alive," she said, reaching down to help pull him up. "We heard the collapse, thought you were buried." "Almost was," Jack said, shivering violently. "The hunters are trapped behind it. Maybe dead." Frost sat against the cavern wall, his face pale. His shoulder had stopped bleeding, but he looked weak. "How'd you get past them?" "Brought the mountain down on them." Jack looked around the cavern. Water was pouring in from multiple tunnels, filling the space rapidly. "We need to move." "This whole area is flooding." Kate pointed to a ledge above them. "There's a passage up there that should lead to the main cave system. From there we can reach the surface near Silver Creek. But it's a climb, and—" She looked at Frost doubtfully. Frost pulled himself to his feet, gritting his teeth against the pain. "I'll make it. Not coming this far to drown in the dark." They climbed, using the glowing fungus to find handholds in the rock. Jack went first, testing each grip before pulling himself up. Kate came next, then Frost, moving slowly but steadily. The water rose below them, swallowing the cavern floor. The passage at the top was narrow, barely wide enough to squeeze through. Jack scraped his shoulders against rough stone, feeling the mountain pressing in from all sides. Behind him, he could hear Kate encouraging Frost, helping him through the tight spots. The passage opened into a larger tunnel, and Jack could feel fresh air on his face. They were close to the surface. He moved faster, driven by hope and the need to escape the suffocating darkness. They emerged from the cave mouth as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Jack fell to his knees on solid ground, breathing deep lungfuls of clean air. Kate collapsed beside him, and Frost leaned against a boulder, his face gray with exhaustion and blood loss. Below them, they could see Silver Creek, smoke rising from chimneys as people settled in for the evening. Somewhere down there was the marshal, the law, safety. But also questions, complications, and the train robbery Kate had witnessed being planned. Jack looked at Frost. The man who'd killed his brother, destroyed his family, the man he'd sworn to kill. Frost met his gaze without flinching, waiting for judgment. "Why'd you cover us back at the cabin?" Jack asked. "You could have let those hunters kill us." Frost was quiet for a long moment. 3 years ago, I did things I'm not proud of. Hurt people who didn't deserve it. Your brother or your family. I was running with bad men making bad choices. He paused, struggling with the words. Those hunters today, they work for the same people. Sent to kill me because I walked away from that life. When I saw you getting caught in their crossfire, I couldn't just let it happen. Not again. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't enough to erase what Frost had done, but it was something, a crack in the wall of hate Jack had built around his heart. Kate stood up, checking her rifle. "We need to get to the marshal before morning. That train robbery is happening tomorrow night, and innocent people will die if we don't stop it." Jack helped Frost to his feet. The man needed a doctor, needed rest, but first they had work to do. "Can you make it to town?" Frost nodded. "I'll make it." They started down the mountain together as darkness fell. Behind them, the mine entrance gaped like a wound in the earth, sealing away the violence and death. Ahead, Silver Creek waited with its own dangers and challenges. Jack didn't know if he could ever forgive Frost, didn't know if trust was possible between them. But they'd survived the cold roads together, and that counted for something. In the American West, survival and trust were often the same thing, built not from words but from actions, from blood and stone and the shared will to keep breathing for one more day. Tomorrow would bring its own battles. Tonight they walked together through the gathering dark, 3 survivors bound by circumstance and the unspoken promise to see things through to the end.